everyone, Alyssa Garcia here with Uplifting Author Services, and I have been asked to film a tutorial for you guys on using Canva when inserting your covers into the Image Apothecary Images. Now, I do want to preface with that Canva is not my first recommendation when it comes to these images, but Canva is a very powerful tool that is great for authors who aren't proficient in Photoshop or don't have time to learn Photoshop. And it's something that I actually do use in my personal and professional life as well. I do love their templates and how easy it is just to insert the text and images that I want real fast for quick and grab and go images. So without further ado, I'm going to show you how you can use Canva with the Image Apothecary Images. I'm going to start with the easier one, which is the iPad. Now, the Image Apothecary does have digital packs, and I recommend using those if you are going to use Canva, and I will show you why later on in this video. I'm using a square template because I mostly use these images on Instagram because they look best as a bookstagram image, but I have seen people use them for multiple different promotional tools such as ads or Facebook covers. So feel free to use whatever size you need to use for whatever project you are using. I'm just going to click here and it drags it in, and then if you want to rotate it, you can rotate it and then resize it. I just want it straight. So I'm going to resize it to the canvas, and then I'm going to get it centered. If you double click, there, hang on, there we go. If you double click a few times, it will bring up where it's grayed out on the sides, and then you can move it with the grid. And if you want your image or cover in the center of the image, you can follow the grid there. And so it's centered. All right, then I'm gonna drag in the cover or click and the cover shows up. And then the first thing I do is lower the transparency. So you can do that to the left of position, to the right of position, to the left of the link, the hard linking. You just click it and lower it. And I lower it down to about 50%. And then I resize to much smaller. And then I zoom in. You can zoom in by clicking here and going where you need to, or you can hit Command if you're on a Mac, or Control if you're on a Windows computer, and the plus. And I just prefer that because I prefer shortcuts. All right, then you just rotate it to get it somewhat where it needs to be, and then resize. Now, with the iPads, I do recommend not going all the way out to the edges. Number one, if you pull up an image on an iPad, it's not going to fill up the edges anyway, unless it's the same size as the iPad, which is rare with book covers. Also, a lot of the iPads, especially if there's people in them, there's a thumb or something covering part of the black image, and you can't get rid of that on Canva that I've discovered yet. Now, someone please correct me if they've figured out a way to do that, because I have searched up and down to try to do that to make this tutorial work, and I haven't been able to. So again, you don't need to have it fill the sides. So I just resize it the best as possible, and then I hold down my shift key so it doesn't snap into the next pixel, and rotate it to get it as straight as possible on the iPad. Okay, and so you can see there's a tiny bit of edge up here at the top, so I'm going to pull that down just a tiny bit. And since this cover is black, the same cover color as the background on the iPad, you can't really tell that, and I was just centering it a little bit more so that see, there's more black on this side than this side, and that's just my OCD talking. Okay, so now there's none on the white. So I'm just going to bring the transparency back up, and you can see what that looks like. Looks very realistic. I wouldn't know that you didn't do this in Canva, to be honest. So I wanted to compare that with this. So you can see very similar. The only difference here is I use a blend mode that kind of pulls in the covers, other colors, and not a big difference when it comes to iPads. So I definitely recommend, if you're using Canva, to just do the screens, and you'll see why in just a second. But I do want to show you where this could become problematic, and that is if you have a white cover. So I'm just going to drag the white cover into that position, and you can see, especially when zoomed in, the top is crooked, and it does just look placed on there. So we're actually going to make the top line up, and since the bottom is darker, we're not going to worry about that as much. So you can't really tell since the bottom is darker, but now the top is lined up, and I'm going to pull it up just a teeny tiny bit, maybe. No. So that actually works. If you actually look at an iPad screen, there is always a little bitty black band around the edges, so that does still look realistic, and then you can't see that as well, especially when zoomed out. So it is something you can still make work, and that still looks realistic and will look perfect on your Instagram. So next I want to show you what trying to do a hard copy. Image Apothecary mostly uses hardback covers. I don't think I've seen them use paperbacks yet. Hardback covers tend to hold up better, especially with all the moving around and shuffling that they do. Paperbacks tear really easy. So they generally use the hard covers. So I'm going to repeat the process and get it sized and centered. Okay. And then we're going to use the Wild For You image. Do the same thing, lower the transparency, and then resize. Okay, and you want this twisted just a teeny tiny bit. Okay. And you want this to be a little bit bigger than the book because you don't want the white showing. We're going to focus mainly on the fact that there's a shadow. And then I'm going to pull that up. Now, when you adjust it this way, it doesn't resize like that. You can see that it just kind of disappears. But if you pull it this way, it will just enlarge it. So we don't want the white book showing. You can twist it just a little bit, I think. I'm going to zoom in so that I can see a little bit better. All right, I'm holding down the shift key as well. And we can pull that in just a tad and pull that in just a tad. All right, so you can see there's still some edges of the book that are a little hanging over the paperback, and that's because you just don't have the tools to make it perfectly fit, and you're not going to be able to do the spine either. I'm going to zoom back out, and then we're going to bring the transparency back up. And you can see it is perfectly doable. It does still look like a paperback with the spine kind of hidden since the shadow's there, because that's really what you're going to look for, is the fact that there's a shadow. Okay, so I'm going to show you what it looks like on Photoshop. Just switch over. And you can see that with the blend modes, and I was able to do some erasing and finagling and distorting and warping, all these tools that Canva just doesn't have. And then the blend modes, it actually looks like a book. So again, I recommend using Photoshop especially for these. I also still recommend using them for the iPad images, specifically for the blend modes and the masking if you need to mask out a thumb. Or, make it work in Canva. But again, I do have a tutorial on using Photoshop that I will link in the description below. I also have an affiliate link for the Image Apothecary if you are interested in buying any of these images. And I also have an affiliate link for Canva if you're interested in Pro. Again, I use the Pro version of Canva and love it. I use it for a lot of quick and easy things on our Lid Court or Blush Instagram, so you can see those. And again, just do your best. Make your Instagram look beautiful. The Image Apothecary has made my Instagram, or all my mini businesses and all my clients' businesses, look gorgeous. So please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or need any help, or if you want more information on using Photoshop. Photoshop is free for a month and $9.99 after that. So it's very affordable and still something I highly recommend using over Canva for things like this. So again, just practice makes perfect. Get your Instagram looking beautiful with Image Apothecary Images, and reach out to me if you have any questions. I hope you have a great day. Thank you.